Welcome to Royalworld podcast, exploring the history, legacy, and influence of global nobility. Discover more full documentaries on our YouTube channel and TV.
The Braganzas stand at the heart of Portugal's story. Today, their throne is gone. Yet their story continues in the memory of a people, in the heritage of a nation, and in the quiet presence of their descendants. A dynasty that rose in the 17th century, claimed a crown, and built an empire that stretched across continents. They secured power through alliances and wars, endured revolutions and exile, and left their mark on both Europe and the New World. The story begins with the first dukes of Braganza, rises with kings and emperors, and moves through revolution, exile, and into the hands of modern heirs who still carry the name in the 21st century. The Braganza dynasty line starts in the 15th century with Afonso, an illegitimate son of King John I of Portugal. Born into royal blood, but outside the bounds of legitimacy, Afonso remained on the margins of power. Yet by skill and strategy, and marriages that bound him to Portugal's most powerful families, he secured a legacy that would shape the nation's royal future. To understand how the Braganza dynasty rose to power and finally claimed the throne, we must return to the final days of the Avis dynasty. In 1557, a child king took the throne of Portugal. His name was Sebastian. From the moment of his coronation, he was raised on tales of crusades and conquest, convinced that God had chosen him for his greatness. At just 24, Sebastian led his army across the sea to Morocco, seeking glory against the Moors. But in 1578, at the Battle of Alcácer Quibir, those dreams ended in disaster. The king was killed on the battlefield, and his body was never found. With no heir, Portugal was left adrift, vulnerable to foreign powers. Though the people of Portugal refused to believe their young king was gone, whispers spread that Sebastian had survived, that he would return on a misty morning to save his kingdom. This hope, this legend, became known as Sebastianism. A myth so powerful it endured for centuries, inspiring rebellions and the unshakable belief that Portugal's lost king would rise again. Sebastian's death marked the collapse of the Avis line, opening the way for the Spanish Habsburgs to claim the Portuguese crown, a union that would place Portugal under Spanish rule for the next 6 decades. Though the country retained its laws, language, and empire, Spanish kings prioritized their own wars and ambitions. Wars drained the kingdom's wealth. The Dutch and English attacked Portugal's overseas colonies. The trade suffered, and resentment simmered among nobles and people alike. By 1640, Spain was weakened by wars across Europe and unrest in Catalonia. Portuguese nobles seized the moment, plotting rebellion in the streets of Lisbon. Their eyes turned to the 8th Duke of Braganza, a nobleman with a claim to the throne. John IV was crowned King of Portugal. Known as the Restorer, he led the nation to freedom from Habsburg Spanish rule by terminating the 60-year-old Iberian Union in which Portugal and Spain shared the same monarch. Portugal's independence was reclaimed, and the House of Braganza was born, a dynasty that would endure and shape the country for centuries to come. From John IV onward, the Braganzas presided over Portugal through centuries of wealth, turmoil, and transformation. The king inherited his claim to the throne through his grandmother, Infanta Catherine of Portugal, Duchess of Braganza, herself the granddaughter of King Manuel I. His marriage to Luisa de Guzman, daughter of one of Spain's most powerful noble houses, bound Portugal and Spain in ties of blood, even as their nations stood opposed. Together, they had 4 children who carried the dynasty into Europe's great courts. Their daughter, Catherine of Braganza, would one day become Queen of England, marrying King Charles II, and bringing with her the Portuguese colony of Bombay as part of her dowry, a gift that reshaped the future of the British Empire. Among their sons, Afonso VI, called the Victorious, inherited the throne, though his reign was marked by instability and personal struggles. His marriage to Maria Francisca of Savoy would later be annulled, and the crown passed to his brother. Dom Pedro II, remembered as the Pacific, became king in 1683. Where his brother's reign had faltered, Pedro's was defined by stability. He strengthened Portugal's monarchy, secured alliances through marriage, and laid the groundwork for a flourishing court. His union with Maria Sophia of Neuburg brought 4 children, including John V, a king whose reign would dazzle Europe. Dom John V, known as the Magnanimous, presided over Portugal's Golden Age. In the mountains of Brazil, in a region called the General Mines, settlers and slaves unearthed vast deposits of gold. What began in the late 1600s erupted into a frenzy under John's reign, a gold rush that would transform both colony and kingdom. But how did European Portugal become so closely tied to Brazil, that distant and exotic realm across the Atlantic? It was in the 15th and 16th century when Portugal became the world's leading maritime power. It was the era of great explorers like Vasco da Gama or Bartolomeu Dias. Brazil became part of the Portuguese Empire in 1500, when Pedro Álvares Cabral claimed the land for Portugal during his voyage across the Atlantic. Over the following decades, settlers established sugar plantations and coastal towns, turning Brazil into the Crown's richest colony in the Americas. Tens of thousands poured into the Brazilian interior, carving the earth in search of treasure. At its height, Brazil became the world's largest source of gold, and the Crown took its share. Under the law of the Royal Fifth, 1/5 of all gold mined went directly to Lisbon. Historians estimate that half of all the gold mined in the Americas during the 18th century came from Brazil. With this fortune, John V remade Portugal. He transformed Lisbon into a city of splendor, adorning it with palaces, monasteries, and works of art that rivaled the grandeur of Rome and Vienna.
The House of Braganza spent a lot of money reforming palaces. These palaces were renovated incorporating elements of the Renaissance and Baroque styles. It brought culture funded by the gold extracted from the mines of Brazil. The Braganza did much for both cultures, so distant and yet so closely bound as Portugal and Brazil have always been.
Through their marriages and alliances, the Braganzas were not just rulers of Portugal, they became players on the grand stage of European politics. Their daughters married kings, their sons wore crowns, and their dynasties stood shoulder to shoulder with the Habsburgs and Bourbons. King Joseph I, who ruled from 1750 to 1777, presided over a time of both disaster and reform. Known as the Musician King, he loved music, theatre and hunting, but left the affairs of state to his powerful minister, the Marquis of Pombal. During his reign, Portugal endured the devastating 1755 Lisbon earthquake, which destroyed much of the capital. Yet under Pombal's bold and innovative leadership, the city was rebuilt and modernized. Though he was personally withdrawn, the reforms carried out in King Joseph's name left a lasting mark on Portugal. Across the Atlantic, an empire awaited. When Portugal's royal court faced invasion by Napoleon's forces in 1807, the Braganza family made a bold and unprecedented move. They fled to Brazil, turning the colony into a new seat of power. Led by Prince Regent John VI, the Braganzas sailed thousands of miles, bringing the court, its treasures, and a vision of a new imperial presence to the Americas. What was once a distant colony suddenly became the heart of the Portuguese Empire.
The House of Braganza flees to Brazil. They go to Brazil, where they own property and conduct business, and where they will ultimately live out their exile.
In Brazil, the Braganzas transformed cities, built institutions, and modernized administration. They opened ports, encouraged trade, and fostered cultural growth, creating the foundations of a nation. Their presence elevated Brazil from colony to kingdom, under the banner of the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves. But the story did not end there. Dom Pedro I, son of John VI, would declare Brazil's independence in 1822. And crown himself Emperor of Brazil. The Braganza name now spanned continents, ruling not only in Europe, but in a vast and vibrant new world. 2 crowns, 2 continents, 1 bloodline, a dynasty that spanned oceans. For 14 years, Rio was transformed. No longer a distant colony, it became the capital of a global empire. Palaces and ministries rose, streets were modernized, and the city buzzed with new life. John VI opened the ports to world trade, breaking centuries of colonial restriction and breathing new energy into Brazil's economy. He founded the Royal Library, the Botanical Garden, and the Academy of Fine Arts, fostering science, literature, and artistic life in Brazil, while connecting local traditions with European influences. In 1815, Brazil was elevated to a kingdom equal to Portugal itself, a recognition of its growing power and importance. the Braganzas had planted the seeds of a modern nation. By 1821, the French threat had passed, and liberal revolutions in Portugal called for John VI's return. The Braganzas sailed home, bringing back not only the monarchy but also the experience, reforms and vision they had cultivated in Brazil. Their return marked a new chapter for Portugal, one of reconstruction, modernization, and renewed sovereignty. Succession was never simple in Portugal. When King John VI died in 1826, his son Pedro faced a choice unlike any other. Already Emperor of Brazil as Pedro I, he briefly inherited the Portuguese crown as Pedro IV. But two thrones, an ocean apart, could not be held by one man. Pedro abdicated in favor of his young daughter, Maria de Gloria, a child destined to be Queen Maria II. To secure her reign, Pedro crafted a constitutional chapter, hoping to bind Portugal to the ideals of limited monarchy and modern governance. But not everyone agreed. Her uncle Miguel, younger son of John VI, rejected the charter and seized power in 1828, declaring himself absolute king. Miguel abolished constitutional reforms and reimposed authoritarian rule. To his followers, he was the defender of tradition and the throne. To his opponents, he was a usurper. Portugal was plunged into civil war. Brother fought brother, neighbor fought neighbor. On one side stood the Miguelists, rallying around the dream of absolute monarchy. On the other hand, the liberals, loyal to Maria II and the Constitution. From exile, Pedro returned to Europe, renouncing the throne of Brazil to lead an army for his daughter's cause. In 1832, he landed in the Azores and then in northern Portugal, launching the campaign that would decide the nation's future. After 2 years of brutal conflict, sieges, starvation, and bitter battles, the liberal army triumphed. In 1834, Miguel was forced into exile, and Maria II was restored as queen. By the late 19th century, the future of Brazil's monarchy rested on Princess Isabel, daughter of Emperor Pedro II. Her marriage to the French Prince Gaston of Orleans created a new dynastic branch, the Orleans Braganza. A family that would carry the imperial claim into the 20th century, though they would never reign. The couple's union was not without controversy. Isabel was admired by the public, especially for her commitment to abolition. But the agrarian elite despised her, and they distrusted Gaston even more. He was branded arrogant, foreign, and accused of military blunders during the War of the Triple Alliance. This was the deadliest conflict in South America's history. From 1864 to 1870, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay joined forces against Paraguay. The war devastated the region. Paraguay lost most of its male population, and Brazil paid a heavy price in blood and treasure. While the navy gained prestige, the imperial army, where Gaston commanded troops, was scarred by tactical errors and bitter defeats. For critics, the French count became the perfect scapegoat. Proof, they said, that a foreign prince should never guide Brazil's destiny. In 1888, Isabel faced the greatest decision of her life. As regent, she signed the Golden Law, abolishing slavery. Gaston warned her, "Don't sign, Isabel. It could be the end of the monarchy." And he was right. The law made her a heroine to the people, but an enemy to Brazil's most powerful landowners. A year later, in 1889, the empire collapsed. Pedro II, weary and ill, refused to resist the military coup. Within days, the royal family was in exile, leaving Brazil behind, perhaps forever. In Europe, Isabel and Gaston tried to maintain a dignified life, but money was scarce, and politics at home moved on without them. Their sons, however, grew up as princes in exile, each carrying a shadow of a crown they would never wear. Some even tried to return, like Prince Louis in 1907, whose arrival in Rio caused a sensation before the Republican government forced him back out to sea. After Isabel's death in 1921, the monarchy's claim passed to her descendants. But the family was divided. Did the right belong to her eldest son, Pedro de Alcantara, who had renounced his place to marry for love? Or to her grandson, Pedro Henrique, son of Prince Louis, who represented a stricter, more traditional line of succession? The fall of the Brazilian Empire came swiftly. In November 1889, a group of disaffected military officers, led by Marshal Deodoro da Fonseca, staged a coup in Rio de Janeiro. Their resentment had grown after years of being sidelined by Emperor Pedro II and inflamed by the abolition of slavery the year before, which alienated Brazil's wealthy elite. The coup was almost bloodless. Troops marched into the city, occupied government buildings, and declared the monarchy abolished. This ended the Braganza dynasty in Brazil. For nearly 7 decades, the empire had guided the nation through independence, prosperity, and crisis. But in a single day, it was swept aside and replaced by a republic. The 19th century was a time of both progress and upheaval for Portugal. The Braganza dynasty, once the restorers of independence, now faced a changing world. Constitutional monarchies, liberal revolutions, and republican ideals swept across Europe, and Portugal was no exception. The kingdom struggled with economic hardship, political instability, and the pressures of modernization. Monarchs walked a fragile line between tradition and reform. Some saw them as symbols of unity, others as relics of a fading past. King Carlos I, who ascended the throne in 1889, tried to steer the nation through these turbulent waters. He sought financial reforms, attempted colonial expansion in Africa, and worked to stabilize the government. Yet his reign was marred by scandal, corruption, and public discontent. By the dawn of the 20th century, Republican sentiment was growing louder. Opposition movements accused the monarchy of extravagance while ordinary citizens faced poverty and unrest. The tension in Lisbon was palpable. Then came February the 1st, 1908. As King Carlos rode through the capital in an open carriage with his family, assassins struck. In broad daylight, the king was shot dead, and his eldest son and heir, Louis Philippe, was mortally wounded. The event became known as the royal assassination in Lisbon, a shocking moment that shook the monarchy to its core. Suddenly, the throne passed to the young Manuel II, only 18 years old. Known as the Patriotic King, he reigned with good intentions but little time. His efforts to calm political division could not stop the tide of change. In 1910, a revolution erupted in Lisbon. The monarchy was overthrown, and the Republic was declared. Portugal had entered a new age, and the Braganzas were forced into exile. Exiled to England and France, Manuel II becomes a king without a crown, living quietly, devoted to books and charity, but forever cut off from the throne. He would never return. And when he died childless in 1932, the Braganza dynasty seemed broken. But history had one more twist in store. Years later, Manuel had signed the Pact of Paris, a historic reconciliation with his cousin Duarte Nuno of Braganza, heir of the old Migueles branch. With Manuel's death, Duarte Nuno became the undisputed head of the royal house. The Braganzas had lost their kingdom, but their family endured. Though the crown is gone, the Braganzas remain. Today, the head of the family is Dom Duarte Pio, Duke of Braganza, a man who carries both the Portuguese and Brazilian royal bloodlines. His mother was a princess of Brazil's Orleans Braganza family, tying together two thrones that once stretched across oceans. In 1995, Duarte married Isabel de Heredia in Portugal's first royal wedding in nearly a century, an event that drew thousands to the streets of Lisbon and was televised to a national audience. Together, they raised 3 children: Afonso, Prince of Beira; Maria Francisca, Duchess of Coimbra; and Dinis, Duke of Porto. The titles that echo centuries-old traditions, passed down through dynastic law even without a throne to inherit. They do not govern. Portugal remains a republic. But the Braganzas represent more than politics. They are cultural ambassadors, patrons of charity, and symbols of Portugal's past. Dom Duarte has supported causes from East Timor's independence to humanitarian projects across Lusophone countries. His family keeps alive the traditions, the honours, and the history of royal dynasty that once ruled both Portugal and Brazil. From dukes in the shadows to kings crowned in defiance, from the golden riches of Brazil to the turbulence of revolution, the Braganzas shaped the destiny of Portugal for nearly 3 centuries.
The Braganzas left cultural heritages. With Portuguese and Latin-speaking schools, with buildings exemplifying Baroque architecture palaces and an invaluable artistic heritage, all financed by the gold extracted from the overseas viceroyalties. The Portuguese royal family and the House of Braganza oversaw the administration of these territories. In Portugal itself, a prominent example is the Joanina Library at the University of Coimbra, built in the Baroque style, alongside countless palaces scattered throughout the country. There exists a vast amount of largely unknown cartography that they'll use to discover new routes. The Portuguese used these routes to reach Cape Verde, profiting from their African colonies. Similarly, in Brazil they established settlements, provided employment to indigenous populations, engaged in trade, and facilitated the cultural and economic development of these regions. Although they exploited the resources of these new lands, the Portuguese left behind a cultural legacy, particularly reflected in the Renaissance and Baroque styles of art and architecture.
They ruled through triumphs and tragedies, through battles for independence and the birth of empires. Today, their throne is gone, yet their story continues, in the memory of a people, in the heritage of a nation, and in the quiet presence of their descendants. Exiled and dethroned, the Braganzas walk among us still, not as rulers, but as guardians of memory. A dynasty forever bound to the soul of Portugal.